So today I'm going to address the half shafts. I debated about whether or not I should take the U-joints out or just try to paint around them, and I decided that I'd rather have this thing painted around, done right rather than painted around. If you notice the clips that hold the U-joints in are designed so that you can grab them like such. And full disclosure, I cheated a little bit on this one because I loosened it first. But you got to be able to pinch those in and then pull the clip out. You can see that's pretty rusted in there. Second one, I did not cheat. So it's a little bit different design of the clip. We'll try it first with pliers. If that doesn't work, then we tap it with a screwdriver a little bit to loosen it. That one's going to come out. I'm going to flip it over and do the other two. Let's see how easy those go. First one was really easy. And I just realized I need to put the camera on the other one because I went really close for this. So basically all I did is when I did the other side of this one, I tried this. Didn't work so well. So I got my screwdriver and just tapped a little bit. I can feel that loosening. After loose. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Well, the needle bearings didn't come out all over the floor, so that's good. Okay, this is definitely loose on the one end. I might have to get my screwdriver under there to lift it up so I can work it out all the way around. This might require a little more tapping with the hammer. In there pretty good. There, felt that move. Okay, so all four of the clamps are out. Before I drop this cap, I'm going to take it off. There's a rubber seal here that didn't come off with it. If you can see there, some of those needles started to move a little bit. I'll push them back down in. Trying to save these, I'm not sure why, because I probably won't reuse them. But, okay, the next thing is going to be to press that out. Let me get a little better, oops, wrong way. Maybe a better way would be to go on the other side. What I'm going to do now is using 2 sockets and the vise. One socket has to be big enough for this cap to go into it. Okay, I have a 1 3/16, I'm sorry, from my 3/4 inch socket set that cap will fit in. That is going to be used to receive the cap as I press it out. Another thing I'm going to need is a socket that fits inside that for the other side. So let me go get that and I'll be back. Okay, I angled my vise around so that I could rest the end of that half shaft on the workbench while I actually did the pressing of the U-joint out of the shaft. Because, to be honest, it gets heavy if you don't have it supported. So it ended up being a 7/8 socket that fits inside this cap here. And you want to be as big as you can be socket-wise, but you don't want it to have interference with the piece of the yoke here, because that'll just make your life more difficult. And then you want to line up the other end with the large socket to receive the cap that gets pushed out. And basically, once you get that all lined up, just crank the vise. These are going to be tough because they're rusted in. Okay, wrapping them to break the rust bond. That is tight. Now, one of the things, I'm going to back this off and make sure I've got that receiver one in the right place, but I don't think it's budged yet, so it hasn't budged. So, not a problem. It can move probably 1/8 of an inch before it would interfere with that socket because of that distance where the locking ring was. So okay, time to get out the air hammer. And wrap on that pretty good. You can do it with a manual hammer. It's just easier if you have the tool to use it. I think I can see a little bit of movement right there. It kind of moved it away from the socket here, so I'll pound on it a little more to give it some more relief from the rust, but it needs to be readjusted. Let's readjust this. Once it gets to moving, it'll come pretty good. I think this one is still rested in. I think I heard a pop. Don't know whether that was it breaking loose or not. It was. Still pretty tight, it rusted in there pretty good. Need to tighten up the base of the vise a little bit. It's moving on me. Okay. I'm going to go get myself a little leverage bar because that's still pretty tight. I do have the press here, and I could be doing that with the press, but not everybody has a press, so I'm trying to show it being done with a tool you're more likely to have. It's moving now. I hope you can see this moving here. Now, there is one important thing. You don't want to go too far with that. You don't want to knock that completely out of that yoke there. Because if you do, you could have some trouble lining it back up to push the other one the other way, because that's the next thing that's got to happen. So, looking at these caps, you can gauge how far you've got to go before you pop it out of that. again. I could probably go another 1/8 to a 16th to an 1/8 of an inch. So that's as far as I dare go. Now, what I'm going to do is the other side is not completely out because I didn't push it all the way out. And I'll have to probably insert that into the vise with some protectors on the jaws so that I don't mess up the cap. Okay. I'm going to take these out. I don't know if you can see that, but that's pretty far. I don't know, maybe this other one won't come out quite yet, and maybe what I'll do, put some oil in here and push it the other way to get it looser if I can't pull that out by itself. But some oil won't hurt either way because I've got to push this one all the way back through this side. You can't push it far enough to get this cap off if you push it all the way out. It's just the way it is. Let that oil run around the whole circumference of the thing. So I don't have confidence that I can pull that out. So what I'm going to do is just go the other way. Got to have a fairly big vise to do this because I picked up the wrong socket. I brought 2 of them over. So make sure I had one that would fit. Once they've moved a little bit, it does get a bit easier to turn, but it's still not easy. Plan on using some muscles here. Loosen this a little bit, adjust these so that they're going so that the cup will go into one of the sockets, the big one, and so that the socket here will go inside the yoke of the half shaft without hitting it. It is possible to bend those shafts if you don't get them lined up right, so you don't want to do that because if you bend them, you'll never get them back in. absolutely sure that's not hitting that yoke. And you can tell if it's too hard to turn. If it feels like you're up against something solid, you probably are. Another thing that can happen if you try to push it too far is the cross section of the U-joint can actually hit on the hole in the yoke. And if that happens, you can press forever and it's not going anywhere. Another thing you can do here, get a dead blow hammer. Now that it's moved somewhat, you can actually pound on these pieces of that U-joint, and if you're lucky, it'll come out. So this is going to be a stubborn one. Oil up the other side and push it back, and eventually it will get loose and come out. Should have oiled them up before I started. I'll do that on the rest. You need an extra set of hands for this job. Extra lube on here too. See what I'm getting myself into being a perfectionist. I think after I do this one, I'm going to see if the spindle on the press will fit inside that yoke. If it will, maybe I'll use the press to do the rest of them. After all, I have it. Keep in mind again, watch that you're not going to pop this one out of this side. Can go a little bit more. Okay. Now I'm going to do while I have that in there. Dead blow hammer and that felt like it was moving. I don't know for sure if it was. Put the jaw protectors on. Actually, they don't protect the jaws, they protect what you're working on. See if I can grab that and pull up, pry up on the half shaft yoke and pull it out of there. To slip, that's not good. Oh, that's not going to work. Don't really want to grab that with the jaws of the vise. That will nick that and make it maybe harder to do. What I'm trying to do here is to just unfortunately, when you're trying to hit on it with those pads, you're not getting the full, and the dead blow hammer, you're not really getting the full force that you could be getting if you use the metal hammer and supported that on something more solid than these rubber pieces. Okay, try to do this gently. Well, as I always say, you get to see the good, the bad, and the ugly whenever you watch my videos. If I struggle with something, you see it. If it comes out smoothly, you see that too. If I have to destroy something in order to get it apart, you see that too. I think I found the easiest way to line this up though is to put the pushing socket, I call it the pushing socket because it's the one that goes into the bolt. You seem to be able to put that in between the shaft, or the cap on the thing, and the vise, and just hold pressure against it while you get this other one lined up. That seems to be the way to do it. So it looks like I'm going to have to do several repetitions of moving this in and out. And before I do that, I'm going to lube it up some more, because eventually I'll get enough lube on there and get it broken loose enough that it will actually come out. This needs to be aligned a little better. Like I said, you need an extra hand or two here. But it can be done with one person. I've done it several times before. It just takes persistence and determination. That's as far as I dare go there. I was willing to destroy this. I just wrap on that with the air hammer. And it would be out very quickly. But I don't want to destroy it. So if you stuck around this long, at least you're getting a sense of what you might be getting yourself into if you try to change these. Let me try this. I'm going to use the dead blow hammer as a pad. That's doing nothing because the dead blow hammer is taking up all the force of the blow. So somewhere in the course of me pushing that in and out, my battery died, so I don't know how much of it I got, but I've moved those caps in and out several times, trying to loosen them. And what I wanted to point out here is the last thing I did is I just was pounding on the cap with the dead blow hammer, and you can see you have to be careful because those pins are starting to move, so you don't want to knock those out. If you intend to reuse the U-joint. But they're moving more freely now, but at the same time, I'm not having any success at actually getting them out. So I was pounding on that. Apparently the one on this side is moving a little easier. Let's pound it back in. Well, only go that far with the hammer. So we're back to the vise. feels a little tight, like I'm on the, like I'm missing the hole in the socket. Okay, a little bit of alignment. Pounding that tight, or tightening that just tight enough to get that in. I noticed that whenever this is tilted all the way, there is a little bit of a ridge on the yoke, and it hits. So I can see that there's a little gap between here and there, so I've actually moved this a little bit beyond where it was pushed with the socket. That's about as far as we can go. The problem is if I push this all the way out, I can't really get it off. And then I have trouble putting it back into the yoke. I don't think I've ever had this much trouble getting one of these out. This is proving to be tough. I mean, they are tough, but I believe that's just the cap slipping up in the vise and not really getting it out. I'm going to try, see if I can get the pry bar under there. Yep, that worked. Oh, and there goes my needle bearings. I'll try to reclaim all of them if I can. I just dropped one to the floor. Doing that, I'm going to shut the camera off. And then I'll show you how to push the other cap back out. So I'm going to try to show you the enemy of trying to reinstall these. See how that one needle bearing is laying in the bottom of the cap? If you get one like that, first of all, you'll never get to press it all the way back on because that's going to take up a 1/16 of an inch or so. Can't get this centered in. And then in the process of trying to center it, you will undoubtedly ruin the bearing, and you'll have to buy a new U-joint to get another cap. So and the way I know that is I've done it. Sometimes that's experience is a cruel teacher, but you tend to learn the lessons. So I've got those all back in. And we're ready to address the other cap. You still need the socket to receive the cap. The other thing you're going to need is a smaller socket to push in the U-joint cross, because it's now a lot smaller than the cap. And I like to use a 3/8 socket for that because .3/8 drive, I should say, just because it has a bigger or smaller hole in it. So we're back to getting this off. And maybe I should check where I've got the camera zoomed into, because I think I'm way too close. So now you're basically doing the same thing that you did before. Well, actually, you know what? I've moved this several times. I might be able to just knock this down. Not gonna go easy. Gonna fight me all the way. Going to fight me all the way. I must not live right. bar is just going to go in. So, based on what's going on so far, I think the way to go is going to be to clamp this in the vise and use the pry bar. There we go. One done, just 3 more to go. Now, once you've got all the caps out, the piece just lifts out of the start piece, the cross piece just lifts out. So, little tip with doing the other side. It's probably best to press it out of the drive shaft yoke first before this flange. Reason being, if the ones in the flange are stuck as bad as the ones in that other side of the half shaft were, then you can actually bend these tabs in while you're trying to force it out. So what a lot of people do is they'll take the other tab from the other side and bolt it together with this one back to back to give this more rigidity. Now, since I already have the spindles apart, I may just use the part that this bolts to normally, because that actually has threads in it and I don't need a nut in order to do it. So that's about the only bit of advice I'm going to give, and I'm not going to show you my trials and tribulations unless I decide to use the press, and then we'll see if I video some of that. Okay, I've got that side set up in the vise, or the press rather, and it's the same setup. Actually was a little bit easier to set up in the vise because I was standing up instead of trying to kneel down because that's so low. Okay, let me bring this back over to the vise and show you what happened there. It actually came all the way through on the one side, and that's the problem that I was telling you about, that you don't want to get yourself into, is that now this side here, I think, came completely out, and now pushing that back through the other way can sometimes be difficult in terms of lining it up. So I think I'm going to do this with the vise the rest of the way. The pumping it was easy, but didn't like the results. Let me just zoom in a little closer and show you the this is where it came out, entirely out of that. And when that popped, that was what gave. So like I said, watch my videos, you get to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And not everything goes well all the time, like some videos would have you believe. So I'm going to see if I can whack that down with a dead blow hammer and get it through there. It does seem to be going. That's a good thing, because if that cap gets cocked in there, then it can be a problem pushing it out the other way. So well, since it's broke loose, I am going to use the vise to push it back and forth several times, and eventually, like the other side, I'll be able to put a pry bar under there and just pry it out. Take advantage of the exposed parts of the caps to put some oil on them. Hopefully they'll slide a little bit easier if I lubricate them up a little bit. I had put a little bit of the blaster on those, which I didn't do on the first one. So that is one difference in the process I used. offering quite a bit of resistance. I don't think I'm going to be able to pull those right out of there. It might be that that cap's trying to go in crooked. Doesn't look like it, but if it is, that's a problem. I'm getting a good upper body workout today. Now that feels like I ran into the solid part of the yoke. So I got to realign this receiving socket here. Let's see if can't be running into the yoke. It's not far enough in. It's just tight. Wish I had a pipe with a bigger hole in it so that I don't have to keep taking this knob off of the vice handle just to get a little leverage. All that resistance is just from the rust, because the caps aren't far enough in to be making a difference yet. That sound was the rust bond breaking. Make sure that's still not even out to the socket, so it's just the rust bond holding that in. Starting to move a little bit. So I was hoping to get that removed and rust removed from these today. And I don't think that's going to happen. It's taking too long to get these out. But when I'm done, I think I'll be happier that I did it the right way. hit these with the hammer a little bit to hopefully break the rust bond. I just found a little trick with the flange. With that flange on there, I was able to drive the U-joint through by putting the hammer on the edge of the flange, where I had something that I didn't have to worry about damaging. This is pretty interesting. Probably going to need a new U-joint there, because in spite of the fact that that's a greasable U-joint, I can see the shaft of the cross now, and it's actually pretty dry. I think you can see it from here. As I wiggle that, once I get this set up, you'll be able to see. You got that much zoom on it, it's hard to focus this camera. But I don't want to put it where I'm going to be running into it. But if you look, oh, my bad, I don't know if you can see that. See if that's in there. Yes, you can see it. I'm talking about right here. This piece right here. It's totally dry. So I'm thinking that U-joint should be replaced anyway. What I think I'll do now that I've learned that trick of using that flange, the hammer on, if I can pull this out now, I will, because I know that I can drive the other way with the air hammer. So tighten this all the way in. Check my focus. Not my focus, but my aim with the camera. Make sure you're seeing this, because I think I moved it out of the way. Oops. Okay. You're not going to see that because it came out so easily. What the heck? I have no idea what I'm showing you right now. So what I had done is put that in the vise to pull it out, and I thought that I was going to be able to just let the vise support it and walk over there and re-aim the camera, and as soon as I let that thing go, it weight of the half shaft pulled it up. Now I'm gonna show you how dry the inside of that was. So that's pretty dry. So that makes me happy that I actually took these off instead of trying to reuse them, because I don't think it would have been too long and I've been putting U-joints in again. So, and 4 U-joints, it's been a while since I bought them, but I don't think they're $20 a piece. I thought they were in the neighborhood of 12 to 16 the last time I bought them. So that's going to be a worthwhile investment. Let's see if we can get this other one out quickly. So I think I can hold this and probably not. So let's try with a hammer. We're going to have to push it through the device, so I've demonstrated that already. Maybe once I get it pushed most of the way out and then use the air hammer on it, I'll show you that process. Okay, after putting a fair amount of pressure on that, I heard it pop and I felt it move. So now's the time to see if the air hammer on that works. It didn't when it was before it popped. I had tried it. Well, it must have moved because it fell. Find that socket later. Don't want to waste your time while I hunt for a socket. Oh, by the way, while I was working on this, I dropped something on the floor and bent down to pick it up. And I found another needle bearing. I thought I had them all, so that demonstrates the importance of you not dropping them in the first place, because it looked like all of those were back in there. It looked full. But when I found that one, I took off the cap that they had fallen out of, and sure enough, that fit in there. Okay. That is loose. It's going to be loose like the other one was. So I'm going to leave the camera running, and hopefully I can show you how the other one came out. So I had just basically tightened it in the vise. I'm just going to walk away just the weight of it, it came out. And there goes some more needle bearings. So I think that's all I'm going to demonstrate today. Just because it's probably going to be more of the same. So that's actually only two joints removed because it's still in that flange. I will be back whenever I get to taking the flanges off. So there's the cross of the U-joint, as you hopefully can see. Both sides of that are pretty dry, the grease, so it's a good thing I am taking these off. So the driver's side half shaft didn't go so good. Having trouble getting the clips out. 3 of them broke off and I can no longer squeeze them in. There's the second one. The third one I've already taken out. So I am going to attempt to show you how to take, or how I took these out. So hopefully I'll be able to get on the side there and be able to work with that getting in the way of the video. But basically, I'm going to zoom in real tight and show you that's one that the ring is still in there, but the 2 clips are off. And I'll show you what it looked like before. It looked like this. And what you could do is you could grab those 2 clips with pliers, squeeze it in and pull it out. Well, as you can see, it was in this way. As you can see, those are gone. So now what I've got to try to do is get something, maybe a screwdriver or a punch behind that to separate it. My first thought was, no problem. What I'll do is I'll take the other side off and I'll just push it through that way and give myself room to work. Well, that sounds like a good idea until the other side breaks off as well. And then I'm kind of stuck with at least getting one of them out. I'm starting to get some separation there, at least on this side. The one that I got out already, unfortunately, as I was taking it out, it broke again. So basically, I was stuck. I had just a small piece in there, and I had to get it out. I don't know if that's going to stay in there. It's probably not going to stay, so let's see if I can get it behind here now that I've got it out a little bit, and just pry. Oh. As you can see, I've gotten a bit of it started. I'm going to try from the other side now. Okay, so that very surprisingly wasn't too bad. Thought it was going to be worse. The one I already took off was a little worse. Try the other side. Now, if worse comes to worse, now that I've got that side, I can, even if this breaks off, I can push it through from this side, and then that'll give me some clearance to work with it. But I'd rather get it out clean to begin with. Okay, looks like this one's going to come out as well with that. Too much of a problem. I really thought that was going to be much worse than it turned out to be. I guess if there was a whole lot more rust that it might have just come out in pieces. But there you have that. I've pretty much decided that since I am now committed to getting 4 new U-joints, I am going to try pressing them out with the press. I think it might go a little quicker, but here's the thing. I was using a socket in here to get the pressure being placed on the walls of the cap, because I didn't want to dent the cap in. Well, now that I'm going to get new ones anyways, I don't think I care about the cap. I'm just going to put them in the press and knock them out. Okay, you'll notice that I'm not using a push socket on the top here because, as I said, I don't care this time about that. Oh, there's tight. I don't care about the cap. So, put quite a bit of force. I'm glad I wasn't doing that with the vise. Let's see what we got here now. Okay, that just broke through. I should have pumped it first. come all the way through. Let's try going the other way. Not lined up good on the bottom. Some of the guns in there tight. About as far as I risk taking it without risking popping it out of the yoke. Yeah. Actually, I could have gone further. I can go further. Gonna shut off the camera while I set that up, but you get the idea. It's set back up. Push it some more. To check it. Well, I don't think that's going to come out easy, but I'm going to try it. And I'm not going to video it. All I'm going to do is clamp it in the vise like I have before and use a pry bar under it like I did before. I'll let you know how it comes out. Actually, I decided to try the other thing I learned, the air hammer on the flange. I moved it out some, but it's spinning in the vise. That should make it much easier to grip it in the vise and take it out. get my pry bar under there and see if it'll come out now. And it did. And there goes my cap. Picked up a couple needle bearings so I don't go rolling on them. I'll try the other side. Since it's already been moved, we'll try the same technique with the air hammer on that side, see if we can move it through the other side. It moved it a little bit, but it stopped. So I'm going to put it back in the vise, or not the vise, the press, and drive it on out. So now that we're only working with one of the cuffs in there, and it's already been moved, I'm sure it's going to be a lot easier to press it out. Appears to be bottoming out on the cross of the U-joint. So I'll pull that cap off the same way I did, and then it'll be time to address the two flanges themselves. So sometimes earlier in this process, I was telling you about the flanges and pressing this out could bend this if this is in here really tight. And I believe, based on everything else I've done today, that they are in there really tight. So what a lot of people do is they get both of their flanges and they just put them back to back and bolt them together. Now that helps, but hopefully you can see there, because of the way these flanges are made, they rest on these two higher spots, and you could actually bend the flange tabs if you tighten those two tight. So since I already have the other part of that flange off and it's a direct fit, and it takes up all the slack because it has a cutout for this high space to rest in. The other advantage is using the bolts that came with it. The hub flange is threaded and you can just screw in the bolts, tighten them down, and you have what I believe is a better solution. Now, I wouldn't recommend taking the hub apart just to get the flange off to press that out, but like I said, I already have it. All I have to do is tighten those up, and I'll have a good solid support, and then I'll just take it over to the press and press it out like I did the others. I'm not going to video that because I've demonstrated it a couple times, but that's going to be the process. So I bolted this onto the flange from the hub and the half shaft, and I inadvertently picked up the wrong one and started to press it out, and now you can see how it's bent a little bit. Fortunately, I think I realized my mistake before it was too late, and I think I can just tighten those up and they'll straighten out. Well, I was right. I was able to pull that in just by tightening it up, so there's no gap. And luckily I noticed I had picked up the wrong one that wasn't bolted to this flange before I went too far with the pressing out the U-joint. And so I was able to recover from my mistake. No harm, no foul. Another quick tip, once you get that pushed part way out and you're having trouble getting the last piece out, and unfortunately I don't have a good angle here. Let's see if I can make an adjustment here. What I've got is the cap is pushed out enough to grab it in the vise, but I can't pull it out easily. So all I did with the other one is take a hammer and lightly tap on the flange, and out she comes, and then the cross piece comes out. I can now take these apart and put that where it belongs, so that I can, the one piece is derusted already, the other piece needs derusted, so I'll be able to get on with that tomorrow.